Alright, what's going on, guys? Welcome to Behind the Grind. So, a couple of weeks ago, I dropped in the Space Marine 2 official Discord that class limits should be removed, and surprisingly, I got quite a lot of feedback to it. I saw a lot more people react to it than I thought, and it just kind of sparked the idea for this kind of video in which I really want to ask, should class limits be removed in Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2? This has been something that has been on my mind for a while now, and well, just by judging from other PvE experiences around the entire video game market, it kind of surprises me that Space Marine 2 is very limiting in the fact that while playing PvE operations or siege mode, which is this game's horde mode, you do not necessarily have the option to have more than one class. You are only restricted to having one of each class for the 3 players that are engaged in PvE. So, to start this video off, I just want to beg the question, honestly, who cares? And what I mean by this question is, like, who really cares about class limits in PvE? Go ahead and let me know in the comments section down below if you think that class limits are a good thing, or if at the end of the day they hinder players' fun with the actual experience. Me personally, I've never really cared for class limits in any PvE game. I've always been against this because the fact that you can balance your game around your specific classes allows for multiple classes of the same kind to be used. I mean, other games are able to do this perfectly. And if anything, it's in the PvP in which classes need to be balanced because you're actually playing against real people. While in PvE, you're not playing against actual people. So the fact that you being overpowered really has nothing to do and doesn't hurt anybody's actual experience with the game. It has nothing to do with absolutely dominating one team because, I mean, you guys are one team, one dream, right? You guys are fighting against the AI, so it's not like the AI is going to come around to bite you in the ass and complain that you're being too overpowered. If anyone's crying about you being overpowered in a PvE game, well, then it's just those who don't want players to have fun. Like I said before, it's in PvP where something like this actually does make sense. And moving on, PvE 40k works just fine without class limitations. Just go ahead and check out Warhammer 40k Darktide and the original Space Marine. So, as you guys already know, in Darktide, you guys can run an entire 4-man team of the RBDs. You can just run a 4-man Ogryn squad. There's no limitations in Warhammer 40k Darktide, and that just definitely makes the game feel a lot better. Same with the original Space Marine. Not only did the original Space Marine have 4 players as well in co-op PvE, but the way they handled the classes in original Space Marine was a lot different. Back then, you used to be able to just equip one armor set and pick one out of multiple loadouts, whether it be tactical, devastator, or assault. You get the point. And you could have 4 guys running around with jump packs, you can have 4 guys hunkered down with heavy bolters, or you could have 4 guys running around with the tactical class equipped. The fact that you did not have any limitations on this definitely allowed for more player freedom and more fun. So it just goes around to the initial point I made that Space Marine 2 for some reason just kind of restricts the player's freedom and the overall fun that you could be having with the game. Now, of course, having more than one class available in PvE begs the question as to how you're going to balance the game, since from the ground up the game wasn't necessarily built in order to allow for more than one of the same class to be running through the PvE operations in the horde mode. Personally, the way I would do this is I really wouldn't tweak anything that is already existing in the game when it comes to the enemy AI or the class perks, except the balancing would have to restrict players from abusing the same team perks. So not everybody, if you are running the same class for the entire team, could be able to use the same team perk. In my personal opinion, you would have to restrict it to having one of each perk so as to not completely break the game, if you kind of pick up what I'm putting down. If you're matchmaking, of course, you would have to default to a different team perk if somebody else who is already in the game is using a team perk, so as to prevent players from abusing that same team perk. So it would just kind of give you an option to pick something else, or it would just default you randomly to another one that isn't being equipped. I don't think that latter one would really work. I would rather have the former, in which it gives you the option to pick whichever team perk you want. So with that, it will break the game. Shouldn't be an excuse to keep players from having the fun, man. As you guys already know, as previously mentioned, other games work perfectly fine with the abuse of power that you get while doing something like this. So what if I want to run a 3-man team of Assault Marines? Me personally, I think that would be a lot of good fun. It would be hard as shit because you guys already know that Assault is pretty bad in Space Marine 2, even with patch 9.0. However, it would just be a lot of fun, man. Just let 3 jump pack Marines run around, dude. And with that, actually, lore accuracy permits this to an extent. So, as you guys already know, in tabletop, Blade Guard veterans deploy in teams of 3, right? You got 3 Blade Guard veterans at a time. So, why can't we use 3 bulwarks at the same time in order to kind of feel like we're actually doing this within the lore accuracy of 40k to begin with? Same goes for the Eliminator Squadron. Both of these 3-man teams deploy with 2 regular troopers and 1 sergeant, so you could really roleplay while doing something like this if you just allowed for more of the same class. We could have a Blade Guard veteran squad deploy in and do their thing, or you could have an Eliminator Squadron just kind of hanging out in the back and taking out enemies from far away. I think it would be really awesome. And moving forward in the future, personally, I think Space Marine 3 needs to allow 4 5-man squads or something like that, right? So I think they should keep the 3-man teams. However, if they want to move forward and really evolve the PvE and Horde mode in the future, they need to up those numbers from 3 to 5. I think you should have both of those options. And if you were to ask me entirely, I think you would also have a duo option as well, just to let us run 2-man teams. Let us run 2-man teams, 3-man teams, and 5-man teams. The reason I bring up 5-man teams is because, well, once again, if we're going to go into tabletop, obviously the 5-man teams make a lot of sense within the lore because a lot of teams deploy in units of 5. You got Assault Intercessors, Infernus Marines, Heavy Intercessors, where you have 1 sergeant or the squad leader, and you have 4 regular troopers. And once again, I think this would be pretty cool in order to actually cosplay some actual Warhammer 40k. I think that would be pretty badass if you were to ask me personally. So, at the end of all this, in my honest opinion, balancing and restrictions in PvE is against the player's best interest. Why? Because it restricts you to a class that you can't use if somebody is already using that class or wants to use that class, but it also kind of doesn't make sense with the lore in question at the end of the day. I couldn't think of a specific scenario in which you would have a Blade Guard veteran deploy alongside a Heavy Intercessor alongside an Assault Marine, let's say. I think, if anything, we would deploy as a 3-man team of Blade Guard veterans, a 3-man team of Eliminators, and if we had aggressors, shit, we would deploy as a 3-man squad of aggressors as well. But we don't have aggressors in Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. Maybe that'll be another video that I want to make. I've been talking about this for a while now, in which I personally believe that for Space Marine 3, the way they should handle customization is you have 3 different armor cores, being Phobos, Gravis, and Tacticus. That would allow for aggressors, heavy intercessors, eradicators, stuff like that, but I think I'll reserve that for a different video in the future. But that's all I got for today. If you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving a like and subscribe if you are not already. Also, if you wish to support the channel further, I'd encourage you to join the channel membership for exclusive perks. I am grateful for all the members, and your generosity is extremely appreciated. Thanks. This has been Behind the Grind, talking about why I think class limitations in Space Marine 2 are dumb, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace!